Hey everybody, welcome back. Evan, the OG original Grognard, sitting back down, continuing our playthrough of the Star Trek board game. No. I mean Star Explorer, Fantasy Games Unlimited, 1982. Yeah, I know the joke's getting wearing a little bit thin, but hey, it's my channel and I still find it amusing. That's all that counts, and that's all that's important. I did want to point out one thing. This amused me to no end, and I don't know why. This is the 20-sided dice that they gave you in the game. This is the 6-sided dice they gave you in the game. I'm not even sure. You can barely... I don't even know if this thing can focus in that well. Yeah, you can. All right. So yeah, the 20-sided dice does have stuff etched into it, but you can't really see it without picking up and looking real close at it. I got a chuckle out of it. We used to have a lot of dice like that back in the day. These plastic polyhedrons that didn't have the color, etched into them like today's. Well, not this is today. This dice is about 20 years old. But 40 years ago, we had to take a crayon and rub the crayon over the dice and hope that the wax would stick into the indentation so you could see the dice being... Actually, I think I have in my dice bag somewhere some of my old dice that still has crayon marks on it. Let's see if I can... No, I think they've kind of worn off over the years. I think this is about the one that comes the closest. This is white crayon that I used and just basically rubbed it in to make sure that the wax would go into the indentation. Yeah, that's what we had to do back in the day for our crayon or for our dice. It's not like we have, these cool dice here or even the Chessex dice. We would have loved to have had dice like that back in the 70s and early 80s. But no, dice technology had not progressed that far forward yet. Yeah, here's one. Here's a yellow dice that I had, and I think that's a green crayon I used to mark those up with. You kids don't know how well you've got it nowadays with your fancy Chessex dice. We used to use colored stones that we had to file down and chip our own numbers into. All right, maybe not quite. All right, so here we are. We're going to start off playing. I should probably get to the gameplay at some point. If you remember from the last episode, the object of the game is to explore all 4 planets, resolve the encounters, and do it under 20 turns. 20 turns or less. Now, you also might have remembered you don't have any idea what any of these missions are until you actually get to the planet, except for the first mission on the first planet. And since I indicated planet 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to go ahead and indicate, all right, so since this is planet 1, this is the primary, well, I don't want to call it the primary mission, but this is the one mission we know what we're ending up with. So, how do you figure out what that is? And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this real well, because again, this is horrible typeset with bad coloring on really bad coloration. But that's the chart you roll off of for the initial mission. And we got a 2. And a 2 is, it's a disturbance, defense systems malfunctioning, fire control. All right, so we know what the first mission that we're sent out to do is, that there is the defensive system in the planetary, the defensive system for the planet is malfunctioning. And we know it's a fire control issue. So we know we're going to be needing our fire control guys to help resolve the issue. Now, there's still going to be 2 other events on the planet. We just don't know what they are. There's also an optional rule that says you can go ahead and roll now for what the planetary type is. And, you know, since we already know that there's a fire control system out on that planet having issues, I think we would probably know what the environment of the planet is. So it's really hard to see these charts and tables. Let's see if I can find it. Environment table right here. Oh, it says for D10. They don't even give you a D10 in this game, yet you need to roll a D10. Of course, you can roll a D20 and just divide it by 2, but we have the technology because we got an ass ton of dice. There's a D10. 7. So it is a glacial planet. So we go ahead and mark down planetary 1, 2, 3, 4. We know it's glacial. And we know the first one is a defense system malfunction. Okay, yeah. Horrible, horrible handwriting on my part. I know. I live with it. I deal with it. Whatever. All right, so let's take a look. The sequence of play. All right, so ship preparation done by players in secret. Again, if you're playing multiplayer, you design your ships in secret, although I don't know why you'd need to. Assign standard components. We already did that. All right, straight down to player turn sequence. Determine player turn sequence on victory point totals at that moment. So basically in the multiplayer game, whoever has the lowest victory points at that point gets to go first, second, third, fourth, whatever. And then, of course, roll die for any ties for order of turn. Then player chooses one of 2 options, stellar movement or a planetary exploration. Well, we're not a planetary planet yet, so I guess we're going to go stellar movement. Choose speed and pay energy cost. Move hex by hex. In each hex, roll a d6 to see if an encounter occurs. 1 to 5 means no encounter. Continue moving. Roll a 6 means encounter has taken place. Roll a d20 to determine the random encounter on the stellar encounter table. Resolve encounter, and if possible, continue movement after the encounter is resolved until entire movement for the turn is used up. Well, okay, that seems simple enough. So, what does that mean? We have to choose how far we're going to move and how much energy we're going to... Well, we don't choose how much energy we're going to spend. How far we're moving determines how much energy we're going to spend. And that, if you remember, is determined by your engines. How many engines your ship has. So this ship has 7 engines, so I can move 7 hexes this turn. And for moving 7 hexes, we look at yet another chart. 7 hexes, we're going to be spending 13 energy. So, all right, so fine. We're going to move 7 hexes. We're going to spend 13 energy. And normally, you'd keep track of the energy stores right here. I didn't want to mark this piece of paper up because I've got it underneath my vinyl. So we're just going to keep track of fuel off to the side here. There we go. Just jot it down. Doesn't really need to be put anywhere specific, just as long as I know where it is. So, and since we're going to head up, we can go to any planet we want in order, but you know, we got 2 planets out here. Let's go ahead and do 1 first, and then 2, and then probably have to head back to the star base, so forth, so on and so forth. So, we're going to be moving 7 movement points, or 7 hexes. So we got 1, roll a d6 for the random encounter. Nope. 2. Nope. 3. Nope. Yeah, kind of gets a little bit repetitive and boring. 4. Nope. 5. Nope. 6. Nope. 7. Wow, no random encounters for that entire movement phase. So actually, what we should have done was turn speed, or here's the turn track right here. So speed, 7, destination, and whatever victory points, didn't acquire any. So that is basically turn 1. Simple, easy enough. So turn 2, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We only got 4 hexes to go to the planet. So I guess we're only going to have our engine set to 4. And how much energy is that going to cost? 4 energy, 7. Or 4 movement, 7 energy. So we've spent, it's going to be a total of 20 energy. Speed is 4, destination planet 1, planet 1. All right, so again, continue. You can kind of see if you're playing this solo, you're going to be able to burn right through it real quick because you're not going to be talking to the camera like I am. So, okay, so 1, that was the dice roll. 2. Okay, 3. I like the 6-sided dice as long as I don't need 6s. Oh, there it is. All right, so we finally ran into a random encounter. So what does that mean? We go to the random encounter table. Space, random encounters. And again, doubt you're going to be able to see it. Camera stick is all wonky. And maybe a little bit. Doesn't look very clear on my screen, but I really won't know till I get to post-production. So what did we roll? We rolled a 19. Uh-oh. Enemy dreadnought. That's not good. That's not good at all. In fact, that flat out sucks. Okay, so enemy dreadnought is the biggest, nastiest ship there is. And this is the not Klingon dreadnought. So let's go ahead and take a look at Stellar Encounter or Space Combat. Let's see, where is the enemy dreadnought? Enemy dreadnought stats are... Okay, player may encounter pirate vessels in Stellar Encounters. Stellar Encounters enemy vessel. The player may encounter a vessel belonging to the Zangids, the Confederacy's enemy with whom an uneasy truce is in force. 3 possible encounters: battlecruiser, battleship, dreadnought, and ship's components standardized as follows. Dreadnought, 3 beams, 3 missiles, 200 maximum damage. Dear God. When a player has 3 encounters an enemy vessel, he has 3 choices of action. He may run, he may parley, or he may engage in combat. Run. Player may attempt to escape using the overdrive mechanism outlined in 3.4 under Pirates. Running without engaging in parley or combat is considered to be cowardice in the face of the enemy and results in the loss of 25 victory points. Parley. Player may attempt to parley with the enemy to continue the truce locally. The chance of success depends upon the class of the enemy ship. A more powerful enemy ship is apt to be less reasonable than a smaller ship. Player must roll greater than or equal to the score indicated below on a d20. So, battle cruiser, it's 9. Battleship is 10, is 11. Dreadnought is 13 or higher. But if combat fails, combat ensues at a closer range than normally, which would be rank 7. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and parley with this nasty dreadnought. So let's see. Let's remember we're right there. Well, let's roll to see. So Klingons on, not Klingons. I mean Zangrids on screen. Yes, Captain. All right, so we're gonna try to parley with them, and I need a 13 or more. Now, if I was playing with the campaign rules and had some experience. Yes, I know, Blair. That I put into captain's bonuses. I could probably use that at this point. However, I have a fresh captain, so this isn't Kirk. This isn't Picard. This isn't Malcolm Reynolds. No, this is just Joe Blows right out of the academy. Well, probably not right out of the academy. So, parlay. Does the parlay work? It looks like the dice is kind of actually landed on an angle. There we go. All right, so we wiggled the dice cup. We wiggled the cup a little bit, and it tips over. It's an, what is that, an 18 or a 19? That's a 19. So yay! We managed to successfully parlay with the not Klingons, and since it was a dreadnought, we scored 15 victory points for parlaying with a dreadnought. Yay. So we scored 15 victory points. And we continue our movement. So So it was third movement, and fourth movement point is going to put us right over the planet. Yay! Now we gotta. I don't think we roll for an encounter. Yeah, you don't roll for an encounter when you actually enter the orbit of a planet. So that's turn 2. Turn 3. I'm not moving anywhere, but I am going to have to power up my transporters to put crews down on the planet. Now, do I actually spend energy for transporters? I don't think so. Okay. Yep. When the first player of a particular game arrives at a given planet, rolls a d10 to determine the planet environment. We already did that. It's glacial. Planetary environment remains this type for subsequent players to visit the planet. So you can't terraform the planet in between players. All right, like Earth, many planets have a multitude of different environments. The type determined indicates the dominant ecosystem of the planet. Okay, after determining the environment type, player may examine the various encounter tables, but he must choose the composition of his initial landing party before he determines which encounters before he determines which encounters will occur. Player may send down as many exploring teams as he has teleporter units. Yeah, it doesn't look like I spend energy for transporters. Teleporters. Not transporters. Can't use that word. We'll get sued. All right, so we've got... so what does that mean? We don't know. We know what the first encounter is. It's the fire control. And that chart actually has its own special table to figure out how to resolve it. Those are considered disturbances. Only military teams or the specialty team appropriate to the disaster may be assigned. So, yeah. So we know it's a fire control issue. So I'm going to have to send down a fire controlman because he's the only one that can be assigned to it. So I should probably not take those off because that indicates what my current value is. All right, so we're landing on a glacial planet. So we still have 2 encounters we need to figure out, and horrible glare. I don't think I can. Well, let's see. No, that's not going to help any. All right, so we look on the glacial table. These are the types of incidences I could possibly run into: geological, plant, herbivore, carnivore, sentient, ice storm, which is a disaster, disease, and disaster. All right, so more than likely we're going to run into something geological, maybe a plant, and an ice storm. Well, let's see. What does the ice storm require for us to try to resolve? It's a good thing since we kind of have a whole bunch of past experience to draw on the computer banks to see, all right, there's an ice storm. What type of team should we send down? Okay, an ice storm. Specific for glacier environment, severe cold limits exposure. The player must decide before each turn to either withhold half of his teams rounded up on the planet from being assigned to an encounter, or he must pay one energy unit per team in additional support. Oh, okay, well that makes sense. Example, a player has 7 teams on a glacial planet and has an ice storm and must either withhold 4 teams or pay 7 energy per turn to use them all. No, okay, that's fine. We're sending down extra heaters and supplies, kind of like that Star Trek episode where Scotty and the rest of the guys got stuck on the planet's surface during an ice storm, but they couldn't use the transporters because the transporters were messing up with people and turning them into evil versions or something. I don't know. It's been 20 years since I watched an episode of the original Star Trek. I just remember there was a time when Scotty and a bunch of, I think it was Scotty, maybe it was Sulu, got stuck on a planet overnight because they couldn't use the transporters. Why they didn't send down a couple shuttles, I don't remember, but whatever. All right, so start at turn 3. We know what we're possibly going to be facing. So I've got transporters, teleports, whatever. I've got 8 of those, so I can send 8 teams down. So I know I'm going to need to send down fire controlmen because fire control is going to take care of So I'll just grab the extra counters. Fire control is going to take care of the actual event for the first disturbance, but I have no idea what the other disturbances could be. But there's a good chance it's going to be geological. So let's send down 2 geology teams. Where are the geology markers? Yeah, they look like a volcano. Where are they? Is that it? Yep, that's it. So we're going to send down 2 geology teams. Let's send down 4 red shirts. Okay, so we got 4, 5, 6, 7. And we got 1 more spot. Let's send down... Could run into herbivore or carnivore. So let's send down animal psychology team as well. All right. So there's the makeup of the teams that we're sending down. Now, I guess each turn you could use this planetary display to show what you have on the planet by person. Or no, these can be by encounter, but, you know, we'll just have these set into the side before we find out what's there. So now we know what's down there. We have to roll for what the other 2 encounters are. So we rolled a 6, which is going to be a geological. So let's go ahead and mark that down on our sheet. The second event is geological. And the third event that we run into is going to be 4, is going to be another geological. Can you run into 2 of the same encounter? Let's see. I'm pretty sure you can. Yes. So you could end up with the same encounter type multiple times on a planet, like we just did. So we got another geological. All right, so we know what we're facing off. We got a defense system malfunction for fire control and 2 geological events. Okay, what does that mean? That means now at the beginning of turn 4, we have to try to resolve these events. How do you resolve these events? Each table has its own, or each encounter has its own well, not really its own mechanics. They all are resolved pretty much pretty much resolved the same. It's just the numbers are a little bit different. So here we have disturbances. This is the first one, or this is for the first mission that we rolled for. Okay. Successfully resolving disturbance worth 15 victory points, yada, yada, yada. Okay, only military team. Okay. Only military teams or the special teams appropriate to the disaster may be assigned. All right, so we know that fire control and military teams can be assigned to this disturbance. So let's go ahead and stick 3 military teams to this disturbance. Actually, let's go 2 military teams. Each turn, the player may try to resolve the disturbance by rolling d20 and consulting the resolution table that appears below. If his roll is greater than or equal to the score indicated, the disturbance has been successfully resolved. If the roll is less than the score indicated, he has failed but may try again next turn. With each successive turn spent in the disturbance, the chance for successful... With each successive turn... I can't speak today. The chance of successful resolution increases. Player may add 2 to the dice roll for each appropriate specialty team assigned to a disturbance. All right, so what does that mean? We assigned... And why do you... Okay, so I'm signing the fire control because it's a fire control mission, so I'm going to get +2 to my dice roll, and I'm going to assign two... Well, let's go ahead and assign 1 red shirt. Yeah, let's go ahead and assign 2 red shirts to him. Now, why do I want to assign more red shirts to him? Well, because if a disaster follows the team and I have to take casualties, I could take him off the red shirts. Yeah, that's why red shirts die so much, is because they're the ones that take up the casualties rather than our precious, regular control teams. All right, so now we also have 2 geologicals. So we have to figure out, and it's pretty much the same way. Each turn a player is investigating a geological encounter may roll to see if he's discovered the mineral deposits. We've got the table. There are 3 different tables depending on the type of planet we're on. So, and this will determine what our target number is, but we're in a glacial. So we're going to be using table B. Those are the target numbers we're looking for to find the minerals that are on this planet and resolve this geological survey. And yeah, it's you assign teams, add 2 for each geology team that has been assigned to that encounter. After rolling for resolution of the encounter, the player must then roll to determine if his team has sustained any losses while investigating the geological encounter. This is kind of the same for all encounters. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. So let's assign the rest of the team. So we got 2 more geological events to try to figure out. So let's go ahead and assign 1 geological team and 1 red shirt, and 1 geological team and 1 red shirt to the 2 other geologicals. And the animal psychology, we're not even going to use them because I don't want to run the risk of First of all, they can't even, since there are no animal encounters, they can't give a bonus dice roll to anything. And if I assign them to another encounter, they run the risk of being taken as casualties. So they beam down, look around, yeah, oh look, there's some ice wombles running around or something. No real encounter. So we've got the teams assigned. Fire control, 2 military to the first encounter, 1 geological team, 1 military to the second encounter, 1 geological, 1 military to the third encounter. Now that they've been assigned, you roll the dice and see if you resolve the event. Now, honestly, I wish a lot of these tables were on a separate sheet of paper rather than being inside the book. And, you know, if I were going to play this game more than once, I probably would make up a player's aid card. I checked Board Game Geek. I don't remember seeing a player's aid card over there. But anyways, so resolution table. This is for the disturbance, our initial disturbance, the fire control disturbance. Our target numbers are 15. And we get to add 2 to our dice roll because we have 1 fire controlman assigned to it. So let's go ahead. And 18, 19, 20. Ooh, whoa, wee, yay. We resolved the encounter. And we resolved it on the first turn we tried it, and we got 15 victory points for resolving that encounter, evidently. And see, this is where if you're a role player and if you have imagination or trying to come up with your own narrative, this is where, all right, so it was a fire control, so there's probably a defense installation or defense or even just a research facility on here that the automated fire control system went haywire and was killing people, and we managed to get in, and it was just a couple lines of code, and we were able to avoid the phaser banks, defense turrets, and get in, and we were able to resolve it. So, you know, you have a little role-playing opportunity to figure out some role-playing in your head on it. At least that's what I do because I'm a geek like that. So, okay, so that was resolved. 15 victory points. Now, we have to roll to see, well, now we have to see if there were any losses. Now, there's 2 different types of losses, A and B. Let's see, what type? A is used for navigation, fire, control. Okay, so we're going to be losing loss table A. So while we've resolved it successfully, but there's still a chance for casualties to have occurred. Roll a d20, and that's a 19. Oh, I think that's bad. 19 to 20. 1 appropriate specialty team lost. Uh-oh. Which is navigation, fire control, fuel engineering, or botany. So, the fire control team, I did end up losing them. Sort of. They took casualties. Loss results require the usual D6 casualty result to be made to determine the effects of the loss. 1, team eliminated. 2 to 6, team incapacitated for that number of turns. So, the fire control team, while they were attempting to shut down this rogue defense system, took casualties. How many casualties? 5. Well, they took a fair amount of casualties. So that means they're out for 5 turns. Now, what it says is to stick it on your turn sheet, your turn record, that many number turns ahead. So it's turn 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll get it back on turn 8. So that's how they say how to track when your teams come back when you have taken casualties. Just means you got to be a little bit careful moving your sheet of paper around because it has your fire control guys. And I should probably also just go ahead and slide this to the side. Actually, I can go ahead and remove that from... No, let's go ahead. How can I mark that I remember that I have them? Well, you know what? Yeah, I can take it off because so I don't have a fire control team for my ship right now. They're in med bay. Is dead, Jim. I'm a doctor, Jim, not a scientist, whatever. And so when the team comes back, that's just one team. So, okay, yeah, that works just fine. I can do that just fine. So he won't be back until turn 8. Uh-oh. And the red shirt teams... Well, we knew how to take cover when they shot at us. I don't know why the fire control guys didn't. You're supposed to be out there taking casualties. You're the Redshirts. We're not dumb enough to walk in front of a phaser turret. So whatever. Let's go ahead and move the animal people, or the animal psychology crews back to the ship. All right, so that's the first encounter. Now we've got 2 other encounters, 2 other geological encounters. The resolution is resolved the same way. Roll a d20. Plus how many teams specific to the encounter. So we got 1 geological team, so that's a +2. So now we just need to know what the numbers we're looking at. Here's the geological encounter table. First turn, it's a 15 because we're on a glacial planet. So that's the target number we're looking for, 15. So both of the glacial counters have got 1 geological team. So let's do it in order. So the first one, I need a 15. I get +2 for the geology team. So I need a 13 or better. 17. I like this dice. I really like this dice. So managed to successfully resolve that. And it's not really resolving. It's more just finding what it is. And how many victory points? How many victory points? Let's see. When a player successfully resolves a geological encounter or has to forfeit, he then determines the VP value. Unlike other encounters, the VP value for a geological encounter is variable. The player rolls 2d6 for the value of the encounter. All right, so we went down under a glacier. We used our phasers to cut through the glacier to get to this rare rock thingy that we scanned beneath. And it was worth 9 victory points, so that's kind of a respectable amount. It's a rare form of kaboomite. So we found that resolved. Now we have to see if there was any casualties that we took as we were phasering through this glacier to get to the kaboomite. Props. So we're on table B. Table B. So we use the table B geological encounter loss table. Roll a d20 for it. 5. No effect. All right, so we're able to phaser our way through with no problem. And I'm just going to go ahead and return these to the ship. And we're about out of hard drive space, so I'm going to save this, and we'll be right back to resolve the final event on the planet. All right, so the final event on the planet is another geological, and we've got the second geological team set up as similar to the first one, with 1 geological team and 1 Redshirts to take the casualties. And this time we're trying to find dilithium. No, we can't use dilithium. Dilithium source. Yeah. So we're looking at a 14 plus 2 from the geological team is a 16, and we needed a 15. Wow. Okay, I like this dice. That dice rolls high. So successfully resolved the encounter. Now 2d6 to determine the victory points for it. 6. So not as good as the kaboomite, but still a respectable amount. Now we got to roll to see casualties. And that's a 4. We rolled a 5 on the last one, and that's 1 through 10 is no event. So relatively peaceful, calm, quiet, at least from the geological standpoint, encounters on that planet. And the only real casualties we took were the fire control teams, which kind of sucks because I need them to shoot at stuff, but evidently they don't know how to duck as well as the Redshirts do. All right, so that is the third turn. So since the third turn is done, now we're going to go fourth turn. Now, if we wanted to, we could return to base to pick up, to pick up a new or a healthy fire control team. But you know what? This planet is so close. We're just going to go ahead and zoom straight for it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes. And so with 4 hexes, the movement, I really wish there was a player's aid for this, is 7. So we're going to be spending 7 more energy points out of our 100. So now we're up to 27 energy points spent. And it may seem like I'm not going through a lot of energy for movement. Where you really start sucking energy is when you get into combat, because powering up your phaser banks and powering up your shields and trying to evade combat sucks up a huge amount of energy. Just moving through space, not so bad so far. So, but we're heading to the second planet, and we have no idea what this planet is, what's on this planet, nothing. But, of course, first of all, we have to get there and pray we don't run into enemy space encounters, because my fire control team is sitting in the med bay because they don't know how to avoid getting shot at by phaser turrets. Stupid fire control team. All right, so 1 movement point. That's a 3, nothing. Second movement point. 4, nothing. Third movement point. Nothing. I like these dice because I don't need to roll. They're not rolling very many 6s, and we are in orbit around the planet. So now, since we are in orbit around the planet, we have to figure out what type of planet it is. And again, it's this one way back there that you can't really read because of crappy graphics. I probably shouldn't be bad-mouthing this game too much because I am planning on posting these videos on Board Game Geek. The designer is a member of, both the designers are a member of Board Game Geek. So yeah, this really isn't a slight against the designers. It's more the graphical artist standpoint, and if I remember correctly, the graphical artist is also on BGG. So, it's just poor choices for the time. I mean, I understand back then you only had, maybe 6 color palettes to work with. It's not like we had Photoshop back then or computers. So I get it. It's just an annoyance. So what type of planet are we around? Number 1 is a grasslands planet. All right. So we've got a savanna grasslands. So let's mark that down as grasslands. Now let's take a look at what possible encounters we can run into on a grasslands. Geological, plant, herbivore, carnivore, sentient, disease, disaster. Well, disease and disaster is going to show up on every one of them. So, okay, so we've got herbivore, carnivore, so a bunch of animal psychology. So let's go ahead and assign 3 animal psychology teams. And again, I have 8 teleporters, so I can sustain 8 teams down at once. So that's 3. What else can we run into? Plant, geological, sentient. Okay, possible of a plant. So let's send one of our botany teams down. And one of our first contact or sentient contacts. So that's 5. And then 3 Redshirts. All right, so that's going to be our composition right there. That right there is who's going down to the planet. 2 animal psychology, 1 botanist, 1 sentient contact specialist, and 3 Redshirts. As I said, always have to decide that before you roll what the encounters are. So, oops, what I forgot to do is write down my movement. That was Speed 4, destination planet 2. Haven't done victory points yet. All right. So that's a good way to keep track. I just wish this was a little bit smaller. It doesn't need to be that big, I think. All right, so what 3 encounters are we going to run into? Take our D20. Let's see if we can try to zoom in on the grasslands chart. I think it shows up better on film than it does when on my camera. So all right, so let's go. First one. First encounter is an 18, which is a sentient contact. So I'll go ahead and write down sentient. Our second encounter is a 4, which is going to be plant. So write that down, plant. And the third encounter is a 9, which is herbivore. All right. So that's what we're looking at. On this grasslands planet, we've got a sentient contact. We don't know what tech level they are yet. We roll that on a separate table. We've got a plant encounter. Maybe there's a new type of grain down there, or maybe there's a man-eating Venus flytrap giant type thing. And there is a herbivore animal that we need to check out that we haven't seen before. Maybe it's a floating gas bag, rat-tailed monkey type thing that floats through the air on internal gas. Why not? Sounds good. The one thing I always liked about science fiction, there's not much difference between science fiction and fantasy when you get down to it. Any fantasy setting can work just as well in a sci-fi setting, and any sci-fi setting can work just as well as a fantasy setting. It just, the technology and magic, you get far enough advanced with either one, it looks like the other. Oh, I've got a phaser gun. No, in Fantasylands, I've got a wand of magic missiles, you know. And the creatures, it's sci-fi. Why? Who says there aren't flying lizard dragon creatures in sci-fi? What were the crate dragons? What was that from? Star Wars. Yeah, the flying crate dragons from Star Wars. And just like dragons in fantasy. So, yeah, that works for me. I'm okay with that. We're pushing about 45 minutes. So that's the status at the second planet. Those are the teams we have prepared to go down. And when we return, we will continue our encounter and playthrough and see what happens on this next planet. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms in the comment section. I'll see everybody next time. See ya!